I'm really excited about today because we're gonna so words. I need words. Human design, the centers. I've been doing some wild reading and then like literally 30 minutes before I was like, I know the slides I'm gonna create. And I created these epic slides. I only do slides or like notes for y'all if I feel like it would be helpful.
Mm,
Like something that you want to maybe keep on your phone to help you identify things like within yourself, because I know that when I can identify something as my hiccup in my giddy up, then I can laugh at it and it makes it a lot easier for me to not take myself so damn serious and lighten up and just laugh at my undefined root or my undefined G center, because sometimes that sucker just it gives me a run for my money, and that's okay because I'm just humaning all over the place. And when I can just see it and identify it and then laugh at it, it makes the journey of living so much more fun and light rather than like beating myself up and walking around with all these bruised G centers and bruised roots because I'm hard on myself. I don't want to be hard on myself. I want to have fun and enjoy life.
I vow to protect your G center so it will not be bruised.
Why, thank you. The Hindu Brahmin chakra system and the seven chakras. And we know that it's an ancient system. And it was like, how did we get to nine centers? How did that even happen? And when I started reading the history of it, I thought it might be helpful for y'all too, because does history or historical context help you guys have context? For me, it builds belief.
Mhm.
And when I can understand logically and feel it in my body, then it's easier for me to act on it. So let's look at about 85,000 years real quick. Can we do it in like 2 minutes? I think we can. Go back 85,000 years. We're five centered beings with a splenic authority. That was how we survived. That, and the numbers always get me. Like, take everything with a grain of salt, because how do we know what actually happened 85,000 years ago? So I'm recounting this from the human design book itself and using his numbers. So about 85,000 years ago, we were the five-centered Neanderthal hominids who relied on instinctive splenic intelligence and their keen senses to survive. They were animalistic and deeply connected to and influenced by the forces of nature. And so when the Cro-Magnon mutation took place, and it took thousands and thousands of years, that was when we became the seven-centered beings. And that was the emphasis on the throat. That was when language started to be developed, the larynx was developed, and we started to gain communication. It was also the migration into using our mind.
Is there a location of what part of the world the people might have been living in or moving around in?
No, and quite frankly, when we go back 85,000 years, I think the landscape of the planet looked entirely different because of volcanoes and hurricanes and flooding and glaciers. And
Mm,
like our world, our planet is constantly changing.
mhm,
And like, this is one of the things I love about living in the high desert, because you see the mountains where it's like they just shifted and moved. And I think these shifts, probably while happening over a very long time, I think they happen fast. Like an earthquake changes
mm,
their landscape in a matter of a minute and a
mm,
half.
mhm,
So you would have a bunch of those over time. So what I think we're looking at, like as the map of the planet right now, is really a lot of the areas that they land were probably underwater now. We
mm,
why we have, sharks that are found at the top of mountains. It's
mm,
because our world is shifting. So when you're looking at like 100,000 year cycles, it's hard to tell where the cities were and where things were because it's all shifting. Like you go back just a few thousand years and we can get from Alaska to Russia.
mm.
And that's just in recent times, relatively recent. So I think we have been migrating as people according to our like this very volatile planet that we're on. Like we have this illusion of safety But one of the things that I've learned from all the natural disasters is that this is not a safe place. Mother Nature can be remarkably ruthless. And it's powerful. That's the power that we carry and we live within and on. And that's what happens when we ground ourselves to the earth, is that we can carry that exquisite power, but it is not safe. There's more questions than answers. And that's the cool part, is like living within paradoxes allows us to just be like, I don't know, like how much has been lost along the way. But so we have these five-centered beings, and then the evolution of the larynx and communication, which allowed us to go from animalistic tendencies to developing language and communication, which leads to organizing and systems. And all of this led to a peak, which is when we switched in 1781. Uranus came into view. We switched from a Saturn like ruled planet, to being an Uranian. Uranus? Did I say that right? Uranian? I'm thinking yes. I'm just making shit up. That feels right.
We understand.
But a Uranian era. And that was when we started shifting from a 7-centered being to a 9-centered being. So that was just 1781. We have this really fast evolution that is happening now. I'm just going to read this section. It says, by the late 1800s, the process was complete, making all of us alive today 9-centered beings. Rob called the 9-centered beings Homo sapiens intransitus. So Homo sapiens in transit, because of the developments that are continuing, the evolution that is happening with humans today, where we are shifting. And this is amazing. This historical significant moment in our evolution. So he's talking about the 7 center to the 9, marked the movement away from our need to focus on survival through mental awareness and mental intelligence of our strategic mind. Our newer 9-centered forms, freed from addressing those basic fears for survival, are once again attuning to the natural flow of order. And so what was so amazing to me is, as 5-center beings, we were in tune with nature. 7-center beings, we were creating the brain, like we were learning how to strategically communicate and logic our way through things. And now, as 9-center beings, we are bridging the two together. We are doing both our mind and our heart to create this ultimate belief where we don't have to think for the purpose of us. We can follow the laws of nature and allow our brains to truly serve the world in an amazing way.
Just 9-centered, is that like 2 more chakras than the 7 chakra?
Yes.
So what is added to the 7 chakra model?
Well, let's just show you real quick. The 9 centers, you have the head, the ajna, so crown, third eye, throat. Up next is heart. So what's added is G center and heart. So G center is at the new one. Then you have the heart, the solar plexus, which is here, the sacral, the spleen is the new one added, and then the root. So the new ones are the spleen and the G center.
What is G center?
G center is identity, love, and direction. And that's the fun part that we're going to go over today, is what are these centers? What do they mean? And how do they speak to us? Because we all have all of them. So if you think about, like, go looking at the chakra system, we've never been like, oh, I don't have a solar plexus. Oh, I don't have a crown. So, like, think of those things when you're thinking of this, because when we're looking at defined and undefined, like, it's not that you don't have it. When it's defined, when it's colored in, all that means is that it is a consistent flow of energy for you. That is a constant in your life. It is white. It is open. It is undefined. You still have it. It's just not a consistent flow of inspiration, knowledge, or energy.
Mm.
It's where you have free will to decide what is correct and incorrect for you. And that's why I like looking at the human design better versus the gene keys, because it's not about eliminating any of your chakras. You all use them. It's just about knowing which ones are a consistent flow of energy for you and which ones are not.
Mm.
Because in the openness, in the white areas, and there's so much irony right here. In the white areas is where we are prone to conditioning. And there were so many parallels to within the whiteness, we can be conditioned, and colonialism. It had me cracking up.
Uh-huh.
Like we're all whitewashed in those areas.
So be careful of the whitewashing.
And that's been the main theme of this last month. I, as many men and many people, but especially men, have had to like forge through the pain in my body, which has also silenced my soul speak through the pleasure, right? And so getting back in touch with that has been a pretty interesting experience. They were like, this is for you. And I felt like I became part of the rock for a minute and then got pushed back out of the rock. It was intense. I just wanted to stop in and tell you guys how much I love you. And like, we're all up leveling, and it's going to be fucking epic, because I prayed and I sent Reiki to every one of you from on the mountain. I sent to everybody I could remember in my mind that they got some of that juice. So
You
Well,
are a soul. Thank you.
And Akam, I want to thank you. Rusty is like a different man, my cat. I thought he was going to die. I was crying at work, and now he's like eating like crazy and taking his meds. And I was like, I know all y'all was doing your Reiki and your spells and your chants and your prayers. And I was like, thank you, Soul Crew. You know, I was like, damn.
Either get better or make it easy on Melinda.
All out, but I couldn't get us up. So I just chanted, and I'm like, I'm so happy he's still alive. I thought he was going to die. It was my fear talking, of course. But Akam, this is so awesome, man. Oh, smack. Woo!
Now, life is going to be really different for us from now on. Yeah.
I just see you glowing, and I just want to give you a huge hug, like pick you up.
You guys.
Man
Hugs back to you. Big hugs back to you.
Big man hugs.
We're going over the centers within the human design, and they all speak in some way. They have conversations with us, and these are what they say. So those thoughts in our mind that sometimes we think, and we're going to go over all of them like one at a time. So there are 5 different types of centers. So I know y'all have heard me talk about the 4 energy centers: the heart, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root, and how those are the centers that produce energy. Well, there are 4 other types of centers. So the throat is actually its own type of center. The throat is a manifestation center. So the concept that all roads lead to Rome is really speaking about the throat. It acts like as the town square. All the energy throughout your entire body is pushing towards the throat, because that is our expression, that is our manifestation, that is our voice. So we have this one manifestation center that is the throat, and all the energy everywhere in the body is pushing towards the throat. Then we have 2 pressure centers, the head and the root. And so if you think about it, like just think about how energy flows, these centers are both incredibly powerful. So it is the pressure that comes in the root is to do, and the pressure that comes from the mind is to know. So those centers create pressure that push the energy towards the throat. Then there are 3 awareness centers: the spleen, the solar plexus, and the ajna. These are the 3 areas of self-consciousness and self-awareness. Each focus and interpret our life experiences energetically as the body, mind, and spirit. So the spleen is the survival awareness. The ajna is our mental intelligence, our cognitive awareness. And then our solar plexus is the emotional spirit intelligence. So it's our 3 different types of awareness. Then we have the 4 motor centers, which I know we've talked quite a bit about. These are the get your motor running. They provide specific frequencies that give us energy resources to drive that information, to drive our knowledge, our authority to the throat. And then the G center is the one identity center. It is the home of the magnetic monopole. So that is like our essence, our spirit, our soul. It establishes our identity as direction through all time and space. Like this is the magic of our soul. It pulls life toward us. It's like our universal life force. So when you look at the bigger picture of how things push, like we have these pressure centers, we have these awareness centers, we have the motors, and everything is driving towards the throat. Is that making sense, y'all?
Yeah, but what specifically are the motor centers?
The motor centers are the heart.
Oh,
The heart, let me show you the screen real quick so you can
the
see.
solar plexus, sacral, and root.
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly it. 5 different types of centers. He asked what happens when you don't have those pressures. Everybody has pressure, defined or undefined. It's how we respond to it.
I have a thought. So just from a kind of a universal principles perspective, if I have an open, right? So when I have an absence of definition or an open space, that tends to draw energy to it, correct?
Yep.
Right, that's what she said earlier, can be more
No, I-
easily manipulated.
Okay, I missed that part.
Yeah, but that's exactly right. And that openness is like a magnet. And that's why it's so important to pay attention to how we identify that is our not self speak. And not self is just your brain speaking shit. That's not you. It's not you, not self.
So the heart is my heart space is undefined, like everybody else, I guess, in the space, from what I heard.
Yeah, there's a number of y'all with a completely undefined heart, which is fascinating.
Which, no surprise that we drew each other to each other. What impact does the quad? How do my definitions and lack of definitions? How is that tied to the quad split part of?
Good question. The splits.
Because the quad split, I mean that's a fairly unique.
It is.
Yeah.
Let me show you someone who's a single definition. I know Reed is. I think everybody else here is a split.
No, I think aren't I a single definition? Or am I?
You are a single definition. And yours is quite complicated. Yours is more complicated. So we're going to go with yours. Well, let's start with Reed real quick because it's really easy. So all the single definition is, you see how his 16 is connected? So his throat is connected to his spleen, and then the spleen is connected to his heart. So if we go to yours, Katie, it's a little bit more complicated because you have more channels. You have the G center that is connected to the spleen, that is also connected to the sacral. And from your spleen, you're also connected to the root, and from the spleen back to the heart. And then your sacral and your G center are also connected there. So
Is that where the sacral authority comes from?
well, the sacral authority is just because your sacral's defined.
Okay.
But yours being all connected in this web, see how they're all connected? So every center you have is connected to another center. So all of the splits mean versus a single definition is Katie and Reed, you both, and Truth also, you have a certain like consistent energy in your life. These things are consistent for you. It's not open where you're like, that's where you attract things or you're not certain. It's like these are consistent and stable all throughout your life.
Sure.
Now, when they're connected, it means that energy can move from one center to the other without any other contact. So, Katie, when you wake up in the morning and you're all by yourself, you have access to all of your energy centers, and the flow of energy is consistent because you're all connected. In comparison, Lee would be the exact opposite, where he has 4 separate energy centers. So his head and ajna up here, those are working. So let's say he wakes up totally alone, so not in anyone else's energy, and he has recharged himself. His head is functioning like an energy center that's working, and the head and ajna are talking to each other. And then his throat and G center are talking to each other. And then his sacral and solar plexus are talking to each other. And then spleen and root are talking to each other. And so there's 4 separate energy centers that exist within you, Lee, and they're functioning all at the same time. You will struggle to access them without another aura, someone else's aura bringing things together. And so what happens when you put Katie and Lee, here's your composite. This is why the composites are fun.
Whoa.
Right? So now, Katie, you're in green. Lee, you're in blue. And look, your definition is suddenly single, which means Lee, she connects all of those for you. So what you see is, Lee, you're all together up here in the head, but she has the 56 that completes your 11. And then Lee, you're 20 to 10. She has the 10 to 57 to 43. She has all of these greens that connect to all those other pieces for you. So wherever you see the green, like if you see the green, blue, and blue, you both have the 10. But like Katie, you complete his 2, which in turn then lights up the areas that you don't have. The danger with this is that you may think, Katie, that some of these things that are undefined for you, you may think his shit is your shit, and it's not. So it's about knowing what is yours and what is his, how you complement each other, and how you both recharge. Because if there's too much together, you may give it 10 years. There's too much together. It may be that, Katie, you start to look a lot more like Lee. That's what happened with Reed and I. Because if you look at my chart, look at all my definedness, and then go look at Reed's chart and all his openness. So over the course of 19 years, he started to think he was a lot like me. And he's not. He's nothing like me.
Oh, is that what they mean when they say couples start to look like each other?
Right.
I mean,
they literally start to blend and hybrid together.
wow.
So it's important to know what I love about the human design is I can figure out what is mine and what is not mine.
Mm-hmm.
And in the areas where it's not mine, that's why he calls it not self. Because it's not that it's not me, it's just someone else's.
But so how does it sounds like positive when you say like Lee and Katie complement each other. But what you're saying is when the boundaries get blurred and they lose their sense of individuality. Is that the problem?
Right. When it's just about being consistently aware as to who you are.
Yeah.
And try to take on someone else's identity.
Deep.
You be you and me be me.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it's not good or bad. It's just
Right.
a matter of being mindful.
Mine.
Yeah,
And appreciating. Yeah.
yeah. I
You know,
mean,
my parents were like that. They were very different, but it was like she did stuff he could never do. And they were like each other. They were both only children. So they were like each other's rock in life. You know, it's like an amazing love story.
That's how I felt a lot about Reed. Like him and I have grown up together. We realized that we have known each other and like been in each other's life for over half of his life.
Mm.
And we're only 2 years away from half of my life. That's a lot of time to spend together, really knowing each other.
Mm.
And so, of course, he took on a lot of my identity. We didn't have this tool. And so this tool has made it a lot easier for him to just be him and not try to become like me. Let me be me.
Mhm.
I love being a lot. Lee, you're a lot. And you love being a lot, I'm certain, because you grow into that. Yeah, but you don't want Katie to be the same type of a lot. When you learn, you've learned so much in your life, and you've grown, both of you, so much in your lives. Like, that prepares you. But I could see just that split to a single definition. I would bet your relationship is very comforting and reassuring and grounding in a lot of ways. And that it's beautiful that
Mhm.
if you can find the connection like that. And the more I learn about your designs together, like having the same incarnation cross, it's crazy.
Hey,
Is
can
that
you so in your dynamics, in all the charts and stuff, can you throw 3 together?
not yet? That's actually something we were talking about this last night or the night before. I think I have an app. I want to do all 6 of mine together.
Mm.
I don't, because we interact with each other so regularly. I'm curious what it would look like. I think I have an app that can do composites. I just have to manually enter everyone's charts into the other
Oh,
app
wow. That's a
in
lot.
order to be able to do it. I'm just like, that's a pain in the ass, but I'll use it for that purpose because you can do I would like to do teams, although at some point, like, you just have everything. I don't have my mom or grandmother in this one, but my grandmother, my mother, myself, and my oldest daughter are all manifesting generators that are a pure manifesting generator with the line from the 20 to the 57 to the 34. So there's
Wow.
kind of genetics and birth order in it because all of us were oldest child and daughters and all manifesting generators and quirky as hell.
Yeah. I have a really simple analogy that my brain is trying to wrap around. Let's say your partner is with somebody, or even, like siblings or whatever in your family. It's like you have a left foot and a right foot. You're both feet. You both carry the body, and you need two because otherwise you'd be hopping around. You wouldn't get too far. But you have to recognize and appreciate that you're different. So the left and the right are not exact. So you are going to, instead of, oh, but you're going left, you're going right, instead of fighting over it, you appreciate, oh, that's so wonderful. You see it from left side, I see it from the right side. Now we have a more complete picture of what we're looking at the client or at the sunrise or what. But people fight because, oh, my way is right. And that is so fucking ignorant. I am so tired of that. And I try to just listen now.
That's what I loved about this. And human design is literally the science of differentiation.
Wow.
Now,
Very
in
cool.
humanity, we look to see our similarities. That's how we break down the walls of hate and injustice, and is seeing the similarities in our humanity. But how we see our uniqueness is the science of differentiation. And I didn't that was a thing until I got this book. And I was like, because it really is science. It's based off of our biology, our chemistry, like how we are truly made, our codons, our amino acids, all of those things are incredibly important. I want to run through the not self of each one of these, or the not self speak. And we can toss around questions and all that as we run through it. And each one of these centers, like, we could actually teach a week on each center because there's so much to it, because each center is also connected to a part of your body. The first one we go through is the throat. The throat itself is associated with the thyroid and parathyroid glands. They're a part of the endocrine system. They're responsible for metamorphosis and transformation. The thyroid system oversees metabolic processes, how we assimilate our food, whether we digest it quickly or not, how we burn energy, whether we are fast or slow, whether we are big or small, skinny or fat. Resistance experienced from premature, unwelcome words and actions, or from speaking when we should be silent, can manifest in our physiology by compromising the health and well-being of our vocal cords and thyroid function. The throat is responsible for our manifestation and for our expression, our communication. The defined throat is 72% of the population, which is interesting. Only 28% are undefined in the throat. And the throat has 11 possible activations, meaning there's 11 gates in the throat. And you can tell when your throat is giving you some hiccups, when it's throwing something at you, especially if you have an undefined throat. Although anyone could feel these, like I have felt these and I am defined in my throat. There have been times where it just gives me heck. So these are some of the questions or statements that can help you know whether or not your throat is giving you some hiccups in your giddy up. Where should I go so that I can get the attention I want? Is anyone noticing me? So these are your mind thoughts, the deep core questions. If I say this, then will I be noticed? If I initiate this conversation, then will I get the attention I deserve? I better say something because the silence is making me uncomfortable. How's that one in sales? What should I manifest? I better manifest something. What or who will I become in life? So when you hear any of those things or anything that's variable like that, that is that undefined throat or the just hiccups within the throat, maybe insecurity. As we were reading this, one of my daughters was like, that just sounds like insecurity. That sounds like what insecurity is. And I'm like, well, yeah, because we can be out of alignment. We can have our throat defined and still be radically out of alignment. And those are some of the thoughts that we could think. And so I use these, and the reason I created them like is things you could have on your phone, because when I laugh at them, when I'm like trying to get attention, this was part of my pattern with Reed and I would throw the biggest fucking fit just so I could get his attention. I would make a problem in order to get his attention because I couldn't distract him from work. Like all he could do was work. He was so worried about money, so worried about everything else. And I knew that if I threw some kind of a fit, I could get his attention. I was very aware of it.
Are you Gemini?
I am Gemini.
I do laugh at it. We laugh at it.
Yes. But and maybe some of the other prompts can help you see it from different angles.
Yeah, definitely.
Because those angles.
I'm curious about the other ones now too.
Okay. Are we ready for the 2 pressure centers? This is one of the 2 pressure centers, the pressure that says, I know, I need to know, I need to know. So if your head center is undefined, that yellow or one at the top, if it's white up there, it's undefined in 70% of the population. I'm defined in my head and I still these questions, because it's not about me. I'm not supposed to be thinking for me. I need to find something inspiring. Maybe if I go there, I'll find something inspiring. I need to find an answer to my questions. Where can I go to find the answers? Who has the answers? I've got to understand this or make sense of this. Where can I go or whom can I talk to in order to find the answers? Is this supposed to be interesting? What should I be thinking about? So if any of those questions come up, that is just the not self of the head space. The head is used for pondering big existential questions. It's not used for decision making. And when you can free the brain, the head space of decision making, it truly frees it up to solve global problems, to initiate different things. It's for seeking the answers that are bigger than us. It's not for thinking about our own pressure.
What I think is funny is that the head is not responsible for coming up with the answers, but it is for seeking answers. That is so freaking fascinating. It's like the moment I have to have answers from my brain is the moment my brain just goes into hyperdrive and
Mm.
Jess has brought it up so many times, like your brain's, you're thinking too much because you're stressed. Like, why, if you can catch that, you know, why would you want to be stressed if you could let the answers come to you through your body? And that's just so freeing.
Mm.
It's so freeing.
Yeah. And it removes the pressure.
So that reminds me of why we have things like meditation and chanting and like what Aqua went through over the weekend. Cause you take your fucking brain out of it. You know, it's
Yep.
like take a rest, rest yourself. You're overworking, especially in the modern world, in the modern day, because in the past, we had in cultures, people would sing and dance as like in church or in their religious ceremony, and they did it every day. It wasn't like once a week. So I think that's part of the problem. I mean, this has been said before. Modern humans, we are alienated from everything, and that's why we have all these crazy ass problems.
That actually leads right to the other pressure center, the root, because this is that to do. And I have a completely undefined root. And this fucker has driven me crazy until I learned what it was. Because that undefined root says, what am I going to do to make my life better? Where's my purpose? I have to achieve something in my life. I better hurry up and get this done. Yeah, I have to start doing something new now. How do I get past this limitation? What am I going to focus on? I need something to focus on. I need to be needed. Who needs me? Where can I go to be needed? Where's my passion? What am I passionate about? I feel like a new experience. I have to hurry up and initiate a new experience. I don't want to waste any time. I have to get this done.
And that's why you ponder, Jess.
Right. Because it's that pressure. I need to be doing something. I need to get this done so I can be free of pressure. That it's extraordinarily painful to be walking around always feeling like there's something that has to be done.
It was very, very alive yesterday. These questions, like screaming, like there could be one of them missing, but they were really coming out. I learned in the process, I'm pretty stubborn with this sometimes, but I learned in the process that the questions that are to be asked are about grounding in the present, because the existential questions when we're in that state, because I've been here a lot too, the questions are literally like, what are you doing to feel good about yourself now? Like,
How do you reverse it?
literally, you could be like, what can you do to feel better about yourself now? And that would literally fuck it. It would literally make it more difficult. What can you do? Just adding do in there, because root is like feeling it.
Mhm.
And
Realize
that's
it
why doing
without even realizing it.
that's why doing nothing is the hardest thing in the world to do. And really, both the root and the head are where all of our pressures come from. And they're like compressing us on either end. And they create this immense amount of pressure that we have in our life. And then we have our 3 awareness centers. The ajna, or third eye. This one's interesting because it's defined, it's about 50-50. It's defined in 47% of the population and undefined in 53. The ajna is about mental awareness, the mind, and decision making. It's that mental intuition. The mind measures or processes information in a dualistic this or that manner. That's the cognitive dissonance in our brain, where we can't hold cognitive dissonance because it must be this or that. That's why the paradoxes are stored in our body. A valuable asset for simultaneously weighing 2 or more sides of any concept. The ajna can look at the positives and negatives of a decision and construct 2 opposites, then arguments that are opposite each other. One argument says the option is bad because, while the other option says it's good because. This is all the mind can do. However, it argues back and forth. It can neither judge nor know what's best. It simply determines how many sides of an issue there are to consider. I thought that was fascinating because if we're following our strategy and authority, we're making our decisions somewhere in our body. But the ajna is the one that weighs the pros and the cons. And I was thinking about how I teach like healing and writing and that dice perspective, like how I look at the dice and all the different sides. That is literally using the ajna to see all the different sides so that we can understand, so we can then forgive, which is what happens in the body. But we have to work through the mental awareness in order to bring in that solar plexus and the feelings that are different. Then the combination of the two is what creates the healing. So the undefined ajna says, I better figure this out. We have to figure this out. What should I do with my life? I've got to figure this out. I've got to figure out what to do with my life. Why does it say that twice? Where is my next move? I am certain that. So our extreme language, the I am certain, that's the ajna. I have to figure out life because it feels futile. I have to know the answer. I have to put order in my life to get rid of the chaos. I have to make this new idea a reality in my life. I better not share this because people think I'm weird or strange. I'm not going to share my opinion because I don't want to be challenged. I have to be ready for the challenge. What am I going to say? The ajna kind of sounds like ego. Yeah, in a lot of ways, because it's the thinking.
It also reminds me of computer systems that they must be modeled on the ajna here, the non-self undefined ajna.
Right. It's the this or that. It's the mental process. And it's powerful.
It's literally the questions that the computer, like think basic computers, it's the literal questions it must ask itself in order to obtain the information.
Yeah.
Except it doesn't have a heart like we do. It doesn't have these defined centers, these energy centers. It's relying on the motherboard. It's just pure straight energy.
That's my question. What you said, Reed, I was just thinking, how can you design a computer with heart? Is that possible to put heart into the computer?
I think that would be really,
Any answers?
Right?
yeah.
Really what?
I feel like that's what some people are working at or getting with AI.
Yeah.
It's pretty darn cool. Okay, so ajna is one of the awareness centers. The next one is the spleen. So the spleen is that survival awareness center. The spleen is associated with the lymphatic system, ears, nose, throat, tongue, all over the body. Those with a defined splenic center tend to take their health for granted and benefit from regular checkups to make sure their hardworking spleen isn't concealing potential problems. When they do succumb to illness, they usually require a lengthy recuperation time. It's imperative that they heal completely before returning to a full active schedule. Awareness as fear for our survival. This is all about our survival awareness. Just like the ajna is our mental awareness, this is how we survive. The not self speaks in fear. Let's not do that because it makes me feel insecure or because I'm afraid or feel fearful every time I think about doing that. Let's not say that because it might upset the person. I'm afraid that I'll feel inadequate if I do that. So it's all fear-based. I'm not going to do that because I might fail. I'm afraid of doing that because ... I'm afraid of the outcome will be or the future will bring. I'm afraid of the responsibility or the criticism. I can't do that because I might lose my connection with that person. They might leave.
Wow. This feels a lot like the answers to the ego work. If fear point at where we feel we lack, then the answer is to let the fear tell us the truth. Wow. Love that.
What do you mean? What's that mean, Reed?
I see I'm a splenic authority. And so I've just been like kind of feeling and looking. I feel a lot of this, like crazy amounts. Um, and when I'm feeling at peace, it's the spleen is like clear and it just speaks in a very still, small voice,
Mm.
clear and quiet. And when I'm at complete peace, then it's okay. If I don't have complete peace, then all of these things pop up. Like,
Mm.
like it has a mind of its own. And the cool part about the spleen in the physical sense, sorry, Jess, if I sound like I'm in teaching mode at all.
Go for it. I love it.
The spleen reproduces itself. There's no other internal organ that reproduces itself like the spleen, because the spleen creates more of itself, like babies that attach to it that are identical
Mm.
to the spleen. So if you've ever had spleen issues in your life, you'll literally have a bunch of spleens attached to it. It heals itself by duplicating itself.
Wow. Although I read that the liver can regenerate itself. I don't know if it's the same way.
The spleen literally creates more spleens, like mini spleens on the spleen.
Wow.
And then oddly, the medical industry has said that there's no reason for the spleen, and there's no reason for it to
Yep.
reach itself with little mini spleens. They're just like, it's all pointless, doesn't make any sense. Until now, when we start studying the physiology and see these energetic connections to the spleen being so still and so powerful simultaneously.
Yeah.
Well, in human design, they say it's responsible for our literal survival. The center is associated with our lymphatic system. The spleen and T
Oh.
cells. The cells of the lymphatic system act like little ears, nose, and tongues all over our body. Ever alert, they are constantly listening, tasting, and smelling to make sure everything in our environment is healthy and in balance. If it's something isn't, they warn us. This is the hub of our immune system. When T cells, splenic soldiers, which make up about 1/5 of our body's cells, are called into action, they attack and destroy anything that invades the body. Their job is to protect us from disease. Children with undefined splenic centers are probably the first to come home with any illness out there, like the flu, cold, measles, or mumps. It's their body's way of slowly building up a natural immunity to common diseases. The key to maintaining the health of these children is to allow them to heal completely after they're sick. Give them a few more days off school to regain their full vigor. Teach them how to take care of themselves in order to strengthen their potential well-being. As adults, they will be sensitive to their health and how they feel, learning about what food and health remedies work for them and what to avoid. Typically, they need gentler health remedies than those with a defined splenic center. So the solar plexus is associated with lungs, kidneys, pancreas, prostate gland, and the nervous system. Its themes are feelings, emotions, and sensitivity, and its function is to allow us to gain a sense of emotional clarity and well-being. When a person's emotions run unconstrained over time, the physical well-being of the several major organ systems will be directly affected. Water retention and weight gain are common examples of the consequences of unresolved emotional stressors. The solar plexus provides the potential energy drive, the cyclic nature of the human experience. Its desire frequency is continually moving towards us, encounters pleasure and its opposite pain. It's the center of revolution, poetry, romance, compassion, spirituality, and religion. We seek to prolong its highs and stay connected to spirit. And we do everything in our power to avoid its lows, our unfulfilled expectations, and a sense of separation. With half of humanity acting impulsively from these emotional ups and downs, and the other half avoiding dealing with emotions altogether, we find ourselves living in an emotionally distorted world. That
Mm.
cracks me up. So the not self-undefined solar plexus. I don't want to go there because I don't want to deal with confrontation. Let's go here because there won't be any confrontation to deal with. Let's not say that because it might upset this person. So avoiding conflict. Let's say it like this so often to soften the potential confrontation. Let's be really nice and smile a lot so they like me. There's no point in going there because I might be disappointed or rejected. It's not worth it. I'm afraid it won't work out, so why bother? I'm afraid to tell her the truth because I don't want to hurt her feelings. Reed, I heard a lot of that yesterday.
That last one, I love this because as you're going through it, I'm literally writing down what do you say to yourself and to the person in order to really be of help. Like we can hinder each other and be like, oh yeah, that's pretty bad. We're pretty stuck. Oh yeah, we're there. Which was kind of the energy was going yesterday. And I can see how simple it is. Like, I feel like I want to have this chart with me wherever I go, where I'm like, let's see, solar plexus. Yeah, that sounds about right. And then when I'm afraid to tell her the truth, I'm like, I choose to tell her the truth. I choose to tell her the truth because clarity always brings joy. Clarity always brings connection. Clarity is where we find answers that help us.
And it's an awareness. This is why emotional intelligence has gained such popularity over the last decade. It's because being aware, we all have feelings and emotions. Some are defined, some are not. And how do you deal with those emotions? Make them in the vertical so that you can have them on your phone. When you're having some hiccups in your giddy up, you can just go and see what's hitting you in the honey boo boo. You know what just occurred to me? I have worked with so many trauma survivors because they struggle with technology or electrical things, like they cause surges, and doing the emotional work will actually completely and radically transform how you interact with electronics. I
Wow.
learned how to handle my emotions because I was blowing light bulbs, starters, alternators, computers. And that was the beginning of my emotional intelligence journey.
In martial arts, if you hit somebody in the solar plexus, which is right below your breastbone, it's like where your diaphragm is, basically internal. That'll knock them out. They won't be able to breathe.
Let's do the heart because there's so many people with undefined, and then we could stay on the centers for next week also, and we can ask more questions and go deeper. I want to get through the heart today because it's one of our motors, and I know a lot of y'all have undefined hearts. The heart center is the ego and the material world, willpower, the biological correlation, the small size and unobstructed position of the heart center in the body graph is deceiving, as it has a significant psychological impact on our life. Its 4 gates are associated with the stomach, is gate 40, thymus gland gate 26, the heart gate 21, and gallbladder gate 51. Those who are unaware of how this center operates are more vulnerable to diseases of the heart and the digestive system. And when the heart stops, everything stops. The heart center is a powerful motor that drives willpower and ego power, enormously influential forces in the world. The bedrock of society is rooted in the will to survive in community and thrive on the mental plane. The heart center has direct connection to the throat center and therefore speaks and acts for the tribe. From the beginning, it has been the tribe that provided the support system to ensure the survival of the family and community and nations. It establishes the foundations of our communal and entrepreneurial ways of life. Community organization created a safe, interdependent environment that made it possible for people to specialize, take their unique skills to great heights, and progress as groups or as individuals. Our great civilizations would not have been built without the tribe's supportive, hierarchical structures that held in place by the four gates of the heart center. So the heart is only defined in 37% of the population. The heart says, I better do this because if I don't, I won't be worthy. I have to be in control. I have to be brave. I have to pump myself up so I feel worthy and good about myself, and then others will see my value. I have to be loyal so that others will see how valuable I am so that I can prove to myself how valuable I am. If I just tell it like this and make this promise, then they will see how wonderful I am. If I show them how trustworthy I am, then they will like me. They think I can do this, so I better prove to them that I can. All of that proving of worthiness. If I am in control, then I can prove my worth. I am not a good partner, lover, or friend unless I prove it. Jamie, how do we know if we're defined? Yes, it's filled in color. And Jamie, you are defined in the heart. However, these questions, while it says it's for the undefined heart, I have found in my definition that if I resonate with these, it's because I'm living out of alignment. That I just need to bring myself back to center. So while it says undefined, it's really like, if you're feeling these, like none of these are very like uplifting. So if you're feeling the hiccups, it's just in your heart.
I noticed it says I have, but it's I have to be. It's a must. And I was looking at conscious language, and the conscious language for or the talk that we provide for ourselves, for our heart, is actually gratitude, which is I have and I am. But almost always starts with I have. And I've been going through this heart centered breathing, heart math. Heart math is so simple, but heart centered breathing. I think Jamie was talking about this when we met last time. How does our heart energy radiate out in gratitude? And then how does that affect the world? How does that affect us, the environment we're in, and then our families and the world? And it's so fun because it's like you can feel it literally radiating out and affecting yourself and the world. It's almost like your brain just kind of goes, oh, okay, I'm good. I'm on this plane. And then your third eye is just like, yes, this is cool. We're just going to radiate out. And the third eye is like, thank you for letting me rest. And the heart's just like,
Where is that willpower?
yeah.
And that when we're on.
It's like the heart wants, when the heart is stressed, it's like, it feels like it's kind of pulling in on itself. It's doing a little twisting, or it might be like beating extra hard. And it's like so difficult. And then the opposite is where it's just like, it opens and then it's just like radiating out in appreciation. And it's actually quite fun. Thank you, heart.
Yes, yes. Thank you, heart. And I want to read the completely open heart center because for some reason, there's a lot of people with a completely open heart center. And I'll do it for the replay. It's short. But Lee, I think this might really help you. People with a completely open heart center do not naturally. Oh, Melinda, you have a completely open heart too.
Yeah.
People with a completely open heart center do not naturally have a good, solid grasp of what worthiness is, how to measure it, or what one needs to do to achieve it. When not living within their realm of personal authority, they are prone to wavering between feeling an exaggerated sense of importance or having no worth at all. With fragile or inconsistent self-esteem and a nagging sense of inadequacy, they are particularly vulnerable to being manipulated and controlled by people who promise to convey worthiness on them by association or by believing this or that propaganda. When it comes to wisdom about the trustworthiness of one's word and the use of money and personal power on the material plane, however, these are people to look to. Their wisdom is released by accepting that they have nothing to prove and that they can rely on their strategy and authority, so how they make decisions and how they exist in the world, to provide for their needs. How does that resonate?
I just thought I felt like that because I was a Virgo. That totally resonates.
Well, that is part of it. Like you're a Virgo because of the undefined heart.
Oh.
which is seemingly in conflict with all that, but it's not. It totally is not. But yeah, no, all that was right on point. I mean, the struggling with worthiness, struggling with self esteem, struggling with where do I fit. I mean, all that. And the key I really discovered is just the minute I just surrender and let all that go, let all that just fly away, then I'm free.
That's the paradox that it is with all of them. Like
Yeah,
with
it's
me,
like, yeah, just surrendering and living in humility. The fine line between being humble and being stepping into victim. There's that humble, you just step a little too far into humble, all of a sudden you're a victim. And so finding that balance. And a lot of that came, when I studied martial arts for years and
Hmm.
years and years, and that helped a lot because then that just swept away a lot of fear.
what's interesting about your heart is it really reminded me of my open G center. That is, that and all of these are the opposites.
Mhm.
Like the having an open G center means that I don't have like a solid sense of identity. It's the same with the spleen. Like if you have a completely open spleen, you're especially susceptible to fears. And so all of them, like it's the opposite, the not self or the out of alignment is just the complete opposite of what our alignment is.
Those are your growth areas. Those are the areas that are asking for, because what nature abhors a vacuum, right? So anytime we have a vacuum, those places are drawing energy because everything seeks balance. So we're always seeking balance. So those energies, those spaces that are undefined, just kind of looking at it from a strictly a karma place, I come in undefined, seeking to define those, to learn about those. Those are the areas that I've come here to master.
If you look at the whole thing, there's only 64 of them. You could literally pick 2 a year and do it. If you start young, Trip, if you did 2 a year, do you have any idea what kind of a master you would be by the time you're 50? Like deeply understanding 2 paradoxes a year? I wish I had learned all these years ago, like that. What could you do with that? But 64 seems like a lot, but it's really not.
It's not, and it's like it is. See, this is the thing. I mean, I've got 62 rotations out around the sun, coming up on 63, right? I look at that and I go, okay. I used to get real wound up about it. I don't even talk about my age that much. It's like not a thing. It is a thing and it's not a thing. Yeah, it's one of those. Anyway, so here I am. I could sit here and like regret all the things that I didn't do or get wound up about all the stuff that I didn't listen to or wound up what I didn't pay attention to or what if da 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 da. Da. That whole if thing, what's if instant failure. When I start playing the what if game, that's a rabbit hole, just like why. Why the question why is a rabbit hole. It's just
Mhm.
judgment and guilt and shame and all that nonsense. So it's like, what can I do today? What am I thinking about? What are the choices I can make? How can I make this better? I look at all this information and I'll sit in human design rooms on Clubhouse or wherever and listen to the chatter or in the other spiritual topic room. And I'm like, okay, and how does this help me improve my life today? The question, because when we start getting wound up in all the stuff, all the peripheral stuff, the question I have to come back to is, I was like, is this improving my life? Yes, great. I'm hanging out. Is this improving my life? No, I'm out of here. Right? How is this helping me move forward? Yeah, and that's what I appreciate about the way you've approached this, Jess, with the human design and the gene keys. It's clear that the motivation is how do I improve people's lives? How do I improve my life? How can I take this from all this data and make it a usable tool?
Mm.
Because I looked at gene keys and I looked at human design and I looked at them separately. I was like, man, I am diving into a whole world here that I just don't have time to synthesize it all.
Mhm.
The way my life was, the way my life is right now. I just don't, I can't dedicate that much time to it. I could have pulled it together, sure. But it's like, no, not my job. Somebody else can do that. And this is me expressing my appreciation just for all the work I know it took for you to do that or this, because that's a lot. And you've taken a couple things that I thought were just a little over the top and made them usable.
Concrete. Yeah.
That thing.
Lee, what I hear you saying, it's a difference between theoretical knowledge, which is just up in your head, and actual, like, how do I apply this in my daily life? So you're making it a practice, like when you were practicing martial arts or practicing anything, meditation, Buddhism, going to work, being, with your loved one, with Katie. It's what Akam described. What happened? He came home and his wife is at the door. Oh, like she totally transformed because he was totally transforming. That's what we're about. That's what people are starving for that. That's why because I'm there. He just wants contact with me. And like, duh, you woke me up, so now I can help him.
It's got to be usable. It's got to be usable. It's got to be functional. It's got to be something I can put to work. Otherwise, I don't have time for it anymore. I just don't, because
Like,
I've been
it's
there.
ridiculous.
I sat around at the conventions with all the smart people, and we did all the rabbit hole conversations, which have their time and place, But if that's all I'm doing, if all I'm doing is theorizing and saying, well, what about this? What about that? And I'm not doing anything with it, I don't have time for you.
Okay, Lee, you just proved my point exactly. I'm going to loop this around to my rant this morning about how hiking's stupid.
Okay.
Use that.
Let's
Lee, you
I
missed
didn't
my
hear
rant.
that. I missed that part.
Right, you missed my rant, so I went.
I was at the gym doing strong.
Great job. Like I was joking about exercise that I don't like doing anything that doesn't have a point. I will hike if I'm going out to go fishing, hunting, or foraging, but I will not hike for no fucking point. If I have to go to the gym, I prefer to go to like a country club, a much nicer gym, because then I can double it with networking. I'm not a unitasker. I do not like to do one thing for one purpose. Everything I do has to have multiple purposes, because if I can't apply it to my life, what the fuck am I doing?
Right.
So I appreciate that about you. And I appreciate that you see that about me, because people don't always understand. I love existential conversations, but you can only have so many of them before I'm like, I am living in the here and now. Like, I must balance my woo-woo with my third dimensional life that I'm living in right here, right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
I
yeah,
think
otherwise, you see, this is the thing. What good is the woo-woo if I can't make it work?
Yes. Thank you,
That's
Reverend Lee.
If I can't put it to work in my life, if I can't use it to improve my life or the lives of others, it is of no use to me.
right. Lee, you might really appreciate this. When I was younger, like my existential question that I had for the longest time was, do I have free will or am I predestined? Was that a question that you struggled with in your younger years?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so I have a theory, and it's just a theory right now. But that was the first question that was answered with human design for me, because my definedness ultimately meant that I had more specific direction in life, like pretty damn specific. Yeah, because I only have 2 centers that are open. And so it's like I have all of this definedness, and that means like I kind of have a path laid out for me. Whereas when I look at someone like Truth or Reed, they have all this openness where they have like more free will. And it occurred to me that it's like the openness, that's where the basket analogy came from. Because if you're defined, you have more of a defined path. It's kind of like less free will. Like you're really going to go this direction. This is really who you are. But when you're more open, you can decide what's right for you and what isn't. What's healthy for you? Can I go this way or go this way? Can I go this way or this way? So they're both good, but that was like excruciatingly painful for me because all I wanted was free will and all I had was definition.
Right. So tell you what my answer was
Jamie, I see you.
to that. Yeah. I see Jamie's.
Jamie's really defined as well.
So the answer to predestination and free will for me is yes.
Right. Absolutely.
It's absolutely yes, a yes to both, because the way I've come to view it is I come in with an intention.
It was that I kept coming back to these certain themes in my life. Like I am so compelled to teach. I have done it in lots of different ways.
Mhm.
It's like I have this involuntary, like I must teach. I must serve people. I must equip people. Like it is not optional for me.
Yeah, no, me either.
And it makes me insane because don't you know, I'd love to just go hide. I'd love to just go do art in a room all by myself for like the rest of my life. But it's like the moment I'm like, oh, doing art, I'm like, I've got to teach somebody this. It's
Right.
like, I have to teach. Like, and then that was
Like,
what
that's why I do the ministry thing. That's why I'm so excited about the workshop in September. That the workshop stuff. I mean, speaking on Sunday is great. Teaching classes is great. I like doing that stuff. But the workshop stuff, look out.
It's fun, right?
That's his jam.
Yeah.
Right? Jamie, I wanna grab some food here real soon. I've done 2 sessions today, and there were 2 long sessions and then like freaking breakthroughs all day. And then this, and I'm like, ooh, feeling it.
Got to answer Jamie's question there. Yeah.
Jamie, on most apps, when you click them or you click on the side, you can click on them themselves and it'll pop up, or you can click up the side and get more information as well. The mybodygraph.com. And this is like the best one. And you can click on any of these and like get more information. You can click all the way down the side. You can have an unlimited number of people in here. And I do have some upgrades, but it's like the most accurate because it's from the source. I have found with human design, because it's such a newfangled thing that people are like learning about, they start interpreting it without doing enough research. And it's not necessarily accurate. And that was really the one thing that launched me into being willing to teach it, is because I have a tendency to go to source, and not just source, but like I meditate through it while reading source documents. But don't get a lot of my education from people. Actually, I get none of my education from people who have studied it less than 20 years. The only people I watch are proven with at least 2 decades. And that makes me feel better about the quality of the information that I'm teaching. I'm kind of a knowledge snob.
No, you're the knowledge juicer, baby.
No, right. It's because if you're going to juice knowledge, make sure it's damn good knowledge. It's a little bit harder because it's literally, it reads like a science book. That's why it's called The Science of Differentiation. It's not an easy read. But once you like pull the nuggets out and then transfer it into an easier language, it makes it a lot easier. Weird theory, but what happens if someone has all the channels defined and chakras? How do they attract others? No one does. That's where it gets really fun. You can click at the bottom right here, current transits. Someone born right now, this moment, this is their human design chart. And so you can actually see the transits that are happening because they're happening constantly. and never is everything defined. Because you can't have all the planets and all the moons and all the stars and all the things in one place at one time to all be currently defined. Does that make sense? So it's pretty interesting. You can look at the transits, and there's a little scrolly thing on this side. So you can see and look at how the transits change. How fun is that? You can watch them move as we move through time. So wait a second, if I have a child, they would be able to read their human design right off the bat the moment they're born. Absolutely, yes. How cool is that? I love you tons.
This is an incredible episode.
Very fun. Okay, y'all. I love you guys. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.